Every day, in millions of homes around the world, the same scene repeats itself. A woman walks from the kitchen to the bedroom. Her dog gets up and follows. She goes to the bathroom. The dog waits outside the door. She sits down to work. The dog curls up by her feet. Not across the room, not in another spot entirely, but close enough to touch. We call this loyalty. We call it love. We rarely stop to ask what it actually is. But here's the strange part. When researchers began studying this behavior closely, they discovered something that didn't quite fit the simple story we tell ourselves. Dogs aren't just choosing to be near us. In many cases, their nervous systems appear to organize around our presence, as if we've become something closer to a biological anchor than a companion. And that raises an unsettling question. If that's true, what exactly are we to a dog's brain? To understand this, scientists had to go back roughly 15,000 years, to the beginning of an experiment nobody designed on purpose. Wolves did not become dogs because humans decided to domesticate them in a lab. The leading hypothesis, developed by researchers like Raymond Coppinger, suggests something messier and more accidental. Wolves that were slightly less fearful of humans began scavenging near early settlements. The bolder, calmer ones got more food. Generation after generation, natural selection quietly favored the wolves that could tolerate and eventually seek out human proximity. In other words, dogs weren't built to follow us. They were built slowly by thousands of years of staying close enough to survive. But proximity alone doesn't explain what we see in modern living rooms. Wolves that scavenge near a camp don't sleep pressed against a human's leg. Something else happened along the way. And this is where the story stops being about evolution alone and starts becoming about the brain. In 2013, a Hungarian research team led by ethologist Joseph Topol ran an experiment that changed how scientists thought about the dog-human bond. They adapted a test originally designed for human infants, the strange situation, created by psychologist Mary Ainsworth in the 1970s to measure attachment between babies and their mothers. In the original test, a toddler is placed in an unfamiliar room. The mother leaves. A stranger enters. The mother returns. Researchers watch how the child responds. Do they explore confidently when mom is present, panic when she leaves, and seek comfort when she returns? Topol ran a version of this exact test on dogs, and the results were almost eerie. Dogs explored a new environment more freely when their owner was present. They showed clear distress when the owner left, and when the owner returned, they sought contact, calmed down, and used the owner as what psychologists call a secure base, a safe anchor point from which to engage with the world. This is the same pattern seen in human toddlers with their parents. Now, before we get carried away, comparing a dog's inner world to a human child is where scientists become very careful. Attachment behavior doesn't necessarily mean identical emotional experience. A dog is not a furry toddler, but the behavioral architecture, the following, the checking in, the distress at separation, the relief at reunion, mirrors something evolution has favored in more than one species that depends on a caregiver to survive. And that word, survive, is doing a lot of work here. If you're enjoying this journey into the hidden architecture of the canine mind, this is exactly the kind of mystery we explore every week. The strange, overlooked science behind the animals sitting quietly beside you right now. Subscribing means you won't miss the next investigation into a mind we're only beginning to understand. Because here's where the story gets stranger. Topol and other researchers also tested something crucial for comparison. Wolves raised by humans from birth, bottle-fed, socialized intensely, given every opportunity to bond the way a dog might. And when placed in the same strange situation test, hand-raised wolves did not show the same secure base attachment behavior toward their human caregivers. They didn't organize their exploration around the human's presence the way dogs instinctively do. This is one of those findings that quietly rewrites everything. It suggests that dog attachment isn't simply the result of a lifetime of care and feeding. It appears to be, at least partly, wired in. A product of thousands of years of selection that shaped not just canine bodies, but canine social cognition itself. So when your dog follows you to the bathroom,
some part of that behavior may be running on ancient circuitry that evolution built specifically to bind a very particular animal to a very particular ape. But evolution only explains the blueprint. It doesn't explain what's happening moment to moment, chemically, inside a dog's body when it looks up at you. Her team measured hormone levels in both dogs and their owners before and after periods of mutual eye contact.
What they found was remarkable. When dogs and owners gazed into each other's eyes, oxytocin, the same hormone involved in bonding between human mothers and infants, rose in both the dog and the human. The longer the eye contact, the greater the oxytocin spike. And critically, this effect was dramatically weaker between hand-raised wolves and their human caregivers, even wolves raised with extraordinary closeness. Think about what that means. Every time your dog looks up at you and you look back, there is a genuine possibility that a hormonal feedback loop is firing in both of your brains simultaneously. The same biochemical signature involved in the bond between a parent and a newborn child. We are not speaking figuratively when we say a dog's affection feels chemically real. In this specific, measurable way, it may be exactly that. This might also explain something dog owners have noticed for years but rarely had language for: the sense that a dog somehow knows when something is wrong. Some researchers believe dogs are extraordinarily sensitive to human body language, breathing patterns, posture, and even scent changes associated with stress hormones like cortisol. A 2018 study found dogs could be trained to detect the scent of cortisol in human breath and sweat with striking accuracy. Whether dogs consciously interpret this the way we'd imagine is still debated. Scientists are careful not to overstate what remains, in many respects, an open question. But the sensory capability is documented and real. So the following behavior may not simply be about affection. It may be a dog continuously monitoring the emotional and physiological state of its most important social resource, a behavior evolution would strongly favor in an animal whose survival, for millennia, depended on staying attuned to human moods and movements. And this brings us back to the mystery we opened with. Is a dog following you out of love, out of instinct, out of something resembling anxiety without you? The honest scientific answer is uncomfortable in its complexity. Probably all three, tangled together, running through circuitry shaped by ancient survival pressure and modern emotional bonding simultaneously. There's a deeper layer researchers are only beginning to map: individual and breed differences in attachment style. Some dogs display what looks like secure attachment, confident and calm. Others show patterns resembling anxious attachment, following obsessively, struggling with any separation at all. Scientists studying separation-related distress note that these patterns can be shaped by early development, breed tendencies, and individual history, but the underlying attachment system itself appears to be shared across nearly all dogs, regardless of breed. Which means that quiet moment, your dog settling by your feet, glancing up, adjusting its position slightly closer, may be one of the most biologically loaded gestures in the animal kingdom. A 15,000-year-old survival strategy, a hormonal bond shared with human parenthood, a nervous system organized, in part, around your presence in the room. Perhaps the most remarkable thing isn't that dogs follow us. It's that after everything scientists have uncovered, the ancient selection pressures, the oxytocin loops, the attachment architecture borrowed from an entirely different evolutionary lineage, we still don't fully know what a dog experiences when it looks up and finds us there. We know the mechanisms, we're still searching for the meaning. And that unanswered question, what a dog actually feels in that instant of connection, is only the beginning of a much stranger investigation. Because if dogs can form attachment bonds this profound, what other emotional worlds have we been walking past, in silence, for thousands of years?